Hey, it's Friday, week 7 of the daily fantasy football season. You have found yourself upon the Sports Addict Fantasy Football Show. I think I figured that out. A little bit of an echo there. I was coming back at me. Yeah. Hello. Happy Friday.
You see, that drives me crazy when I get that.
Oh, I was so frustrated with that right now. This is the Daily Fantasy Sports Show from the Sports Attic. We're talking all things Draft Kings. Well, one man is talking all things Draft Kings. This guy right here. The show's, I'll call you the expert of fantasy football. No. Of course, the main slate is what we'll be talking about. Who are you stacking? Who we punting on? What are the value plays? Al Larcher. You can find him at Larcher Than Life on Twitter. Follow him there. Big time winner of many events through DraftKings here. Al, what's up with week 7? Well, how was your week 6? I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
Week 6 was all right. Week 6, I couldn't find the ceiling, but all my teams hit the average, so I made money, a little bit of money. But when you play tournaments, you obviously want to win a lot of money. And generally speaking, I take about a 30% loss until I hit a big win. And this week I just broke even. So we're a little above, but nothing to brag about. So it was okay. It was all right. But I'm excited because this week we're officially here. We've been waiting all year for it. This is the Geno Smith week. He's projected to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate. It's the largest over and under. Yep. The Seattle Los Angeles Chargers game. So we're getting excited.
That's great. That's fantastic. It's definitely for me a weird week. You don't have the Eagles there. There's no Buffalo Bills. Where are we finding the right place? I know there's 2 games there that are now at 50 and above, right? That's what I saw last night. For a bit earlier this week, there was only 1. And I think Dak coming back might have pushed one a little bit.
Oh, right. Yeah. I have 2 games at 49 and 1 at 50, but you're right. I mean, there's essentially 3 games on this slate looking at. It's been the same story the last couple of weeks where there's 1 game that's obvious to play and then one other game that is probably the pivot. This week, I think there's a little more parity. I mean, I think there's 3 games at 49 and 50 over unders, and that's of course Seattle, LA Chargers, which has the highest over and under. There's the 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. It looks like the line might have moved on that a little bit, and the Kansas City Chiefs now only favored by 2 points.
Ooh.
I don't know if they're baking in the fact that Christian McCaffrey will play. If you're just waking up and you don't know this, Christian McCaffrey, of course, now a San Francisco 49er. And hopefully you guys got Deontay Foreman. Don't get Chubba Hubba. Deontay Foreman's the pickup. The news broke last night at about 10:30, somewhere in there. And I went to the Draft Wizard that we both use, where you can look at all your teams. You can type in a player and see if they're available in any of your leagues. Sure. 90% of my leagues, all but one league, the Scott Fishbowl, he was available, Deontay Foreman. But I was at work. 5 minutes later, I missed out on two of my 7 teams. Somebody snagged him in those couple minutes. Dang. So it was a feeding frenzy last night to get him. And hopefully people got him. And if you're not in a sharp league and you're waking up this morning, that's a definite pickup.
Well, I got something to do here. Hang on a second.
Yeah. I think you missed the boat, Clark.
But there's one league. There's one.
Did you hear about the news last night? Did you know the Christian?
I mean, it was just before I went to bed. My Carolina Panthers expert, my sister, was staying the night. She flew back into town, and big fan of the Carolina Panthers. We had just said goodnight. I was up in bed. I sent her a text then, and she said they didn't get enough for him. That was what she said. They said they should have at least gotten a number 1. And I'm like, man, they got a 2, 3, and a 4, and then a 5 for the next year. That's a lot. That's pretty good.
It is I don't buy into the whole injury prone thing, but I mean, obviously that's a case to be made against Christian McCaffrey is he's
Right.
going to a team that tends to specialize in injuries. The San Francisco 49ers are known for injuries, and he's a player known for injuries.
As is
So,
he. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
kind of interesting. DraftKings still has him as a Carolina Panther. Um, I don't know that they're going to yank him. I don't think that they do. I know
well,
sometimes with trades they suspend players.
yeah, they don't accrue points right now. DraftKings isn't saying that.
Well, I'm not on the actual DraftKings app. I'm on
Okay,
um, I'm on my fantasy labs right now looking at it, and
I'll get there.
he's listed as a Carolina Panther and at 8,400. So I don't know if he gets pulled from the slate. I think if he is playing, that's a pretty good spot against the Kansas City Chiefs, where I definitely want to fire up some Christian McCaffrey. He was a good play against a tough Tampa Bay defense, and now I think he'd be a smash play. But yeah, so that game has moved up to the 49 to 49 points, and the over and under is only 2 now for Kansas City. It's a hard game to attack. Even before Christian McCaffrey, I just didn't know
Sure.
where to go on the San Francisco side. Kansas City's very easy. Like you just kind of know what to do there. There's Kelsey, there's Scatling, um, and there's yeah, Schuster, Scatling, maybe Mikael Hardman, but he's losing snaps to Sky Moore, so I just wouldn't want to touch either of those guys in a stack, even though they might make a little bit of sense. I'm
Mhm.
just I'm sticking with Scatling, I'm sticking with Schuster, I'm sticking with Kelsey and Mahomes. Um, but then you get to the San Francisco 49ers side of things, and it's just like I'm not as sure what to do. I mean, the running back situation prior to Christian McCaffrey was a mess. Yeah, I mean Jeff Wilson, Trevin Coleman, and Kyle Juszczyk. Those three guys. I mean, it was just a mess. So Christian McCaffrey definitely clears that up because now you have a clear number one alpha. But as far as the passing game goes, Brandon Ayuk went off last week.
Mhm.
He's the speed guy. This isn't a great spot for him against Kansas City. But he's a guy I would play in the stack. Debo Samuel is in a good spot this week. 7,600. I think he's well worth the play. A lot of upside there. And George Kittle is getting a lot of usage. He hasn't delivered really yet, but the dude's uh the dude's seeing the targets. I mean, 10
Hey,
targets last week.
if CMC is coming in, and I know Samuel will get behind the quarterback there a lot and run the ball. Does that affect how much you'd place a Samuel this week?
You say Curtis Samuel?
Yeah,
Um
no Debo, right? Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, Debo. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Still thinking Carolina Panthers.
Oh, that's
Um
okay.
and I don't even think Curtis Smith is still there with them. Anyways, um
Right, but Samuel will run the ball, right?
yeah, I mean Samuel was being used in specialty packages, and he was getting a couple touches as a running back a game.
Yep.
Um, but I mean, you couldn't really depend on it, and I think this frees him up more as a wide receiver. 10 targets last week, 7 catches. He only got 79 yards. So, I mean, he's getting the targets. 10 targets last week, 9 targets the prior week, 7 targets, 8 targets. So that's his last 5 outings. He's only cleared 100 yards once, and he only has 2 touchdowns in those games. But the usage is there, the opportunity is there. We know he's a skilled player, so you're just waiting for the explosion. And a shootout with Kansas City is a very sexy and appealing place for that to happen. And if Christian McCaffrey is on the field and he's picking up a lot of that underneath stuff, I think it's going to open the ball up more for Debo Samuel. Listen, Christian McCaffrey might have been the missing piece. He might have been the link that's needed to really get this offense alive because it's dead right now. And Jimmy Garoppolo, not obviously not a great quarterback, and they're planning on Trey Lance having a big year, and of course he wasn't looking good, and then he got injured. As far as rushing goes, in the last 5 games, he's gone 2 touches, 2 touches, 2 touches, 5 touches. So I mean, it looks like he's just getting 2 touches a game for about 12 yards. So you know, um, I know they tried some trick stuff with him, but it really wasn't. It wasn't working this year. And yeah, so that's not a concern. Long as he's getting the targets through the air, which he has been. So this is a game, yeah, it's definitely one to attack. I think it's probably going to come in lower owned than the LA Chargers and the Seattle Seahawks game. So if you're looking to pivot, get a little off the chalk, I think people are just going to be a little confused what to do here. And yeah, I mean, I'm talking myself into doing some Debo Samuel stacks with Kittle, and if McCaffrey is playing, I think people are going to be wary to play him because they just don't know how much he's going to touch the ball, if he's in sync with the offense yet, or if they even put him on the field. And
So I got logged into DraftKings. It took me a second there,
I was about to
security
do that. Thank
reasons.
you.
Still listed. McCaffrey's still listed as a Carolina Panther. Of course, in the player news coming from RotoWire, it mentions the trade, but still listed as a Carolina Panther.
Okay.
I don't know, Al. I do know that most times DraftKings says that traded players will not be available to score points.
Yeah.
I wonder if that changes a little bit if they expect someone to play someone of the CMC status, because
I don't know.
trades like this don't happen.
Yeah.
There's no precedent, I don't think, right?
I'm not I don't recall anything. Like
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't remember. I'm trying to find okay, traded player policy for DraftKings Team Sports. When a player is traded after contests for a given game set have become available, but before contests started, traded players will be eligible to cure fantasy points for their new team when both teams, the player's old and new teams, are in the game set. So it sounds like he's going to be eligible.
Okay. All right.
So if people are going to be confused and not play him, then I'm playing a lot of Christian McCaffrey. If
Right.
if everybody just wants to play Christian McCaffrey because his price is fairly decent because he was in a tough spot this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's 8,400, which I think is fairly reasonable for Christian McCaffrey. Then you know what? I'm probably going to touch him. I'm probably going to play him. I mean, if ownership's under 15%, I'm going to be very excited to play him. But again, you just don't know. There's a lot of obviously uncertainty in
Yeah.
playing him this week because what are they going to do? Are they going to use him or not?
Right. I don't know. Wow.
Yeah. So
As of today, I mean, yeah, it's a situation that to keep an eye on as we roll, I guess.
yeah, but I'm more interested in the air game of this than the run game.
There we
So
go.
I think I'm going to stick with mostly my stacks. I don't even know. I might play Christian McCaffrey outside of the stack and stick with, a Garoppolo to a Samuel Ayak or a Garoppolo to an Ayak Kelsey with a Kansas City run back. And, the Kansas City wide receivers are so cheap. Scatling's 4,400, 5% ownership right now. And let me say this because, we talk about ownerships a lot here, that this is very early in the week ownership. I mean, I know it's Friday morning, but over the next 2 days, these ownerships change a lot. So when I'm giving you an ownership now, it's an early estimate, and just understand, pay attention to ownership and how the market changes as the week progresses. But yeah, right now Samuel only 10% ownership, and Scatling 5, and Ayak 4,
Wow.
and Kelsey is at 2% ownership, and Kittle's at about 10%. So there's no one's playing this game as of right now. People just I think that people feel burned by Kansas City because you just Kansas City goes off and then they kind of cool down, and San Francisco is just a hard team to play. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely having exposure on this game. I think I'm starting to like this game a lot the more we talk about it here. Um, I think it's just going to be a nice pivot off of Seattle and the LA Chargers. And it's a late game. So if you can make some early moves, if you could take a lot of risk early and that risk pays off,
Mhm.
you could then pivot to playing the chalk in this game, which there's not a lot of, but you could play the stars. And if your chalk fails early, or if your risk fails early, then you could move to like an Ayak and try to attack the game at a different angle than other people are playing. So, it gives you some flexibility. I like this game a lot. Let's go to Seattle and the Chargers. This is probably going to be the chalkiest game. As I said, right now, Geno Smith is projected to be the highest owned quarterback at 15%. Justin Herbert's projected around 10%. So you're looking at 25% ownership on this game alone. It's going to suck up most of the ownership in the game, and consistently the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers have been underpriced. And I actually haven't looked at a lot of pricing yet. So let me flip over there. Yeah, wow. I mean, come on. Tyler Lockett, 5,800. I mean, are you kidding me? He's just too damn cheap. And and because of that, he's sucking up about 20% ownership at least. And DK Metcalf, 6,600. He's looking at 10 to 15% ownership. So I mean, this game clearly is where all the ownership's going. Mike Williams right now is not projecting for much ownership, but I think once people start putting their stacks together, he's going to be the run back. Also, Gerald Everett is probably a decent play as a run back. So, and he's projecting right now at about 6% ownership. So, yeah, this game is very stackable, but you're going to be fighting ownership on it. So you're going to have to. This is the game where you want to take your risk early, hope for the best, and if it hits, you could stick with this game if you take your risk early. If your risk early fails, you can then pivot to the Kansas City San Francisco game and get off the ownership. So those are the two kind of options there. If you're playing when I'm running 150 teams in a mass tournament, the idea of playing early game risk and then being able to make moves in the evening games, the late games, it's just not realistic. But when I'm doing like a single single entry or a three team entry, these are things you really should be considering. If you take risk early and your risk hits, stay with the chalky game, stay where all the points are projected to be in the Seattle LA Chargers. But if you take a lot of risk early and you take chances early and those chances fail, or they don't fail, but let's say they don't go off like you think they should, then you're going to want to move away from the ownership and go to the San Francisco Kansas City game. So that's just something to consider between these two games. As far as Seattle, obviously Geno Smith is just having a fantastic year from an efficiency standpoint. The guy is just playing really good football, and he's surrounded by good wide receivers. And I think the Seattle team is probably the biggest surprise of the NFL this season. Oddly enough, I think Denver is probably the biggest disappointment. So, Russell Wilson, now it's not looking good for Russ there. But yeah, Geno Smith is a really good play, especially in single entry or cash games, because his ownership is going to be high. He's probably going to be a fade in tournament. That's probably where you're going to want to go to a Garoppolo or Mahomes, or some of these other guys we'll talk about later. But yeah, Geno Smith, just very efficient. The ceiling isn't great. You're talking about 25, 30 point ceiling, but he's 5,600. He's just so cheap. He could easily triple his value. He gets you 22 points. You've over tripled your value. I mean, you got a times 4 multiplier on it at that point. So, and then the pieces are just easy. It's like if you think the run game is going to be there, Ken Walker the third's a great play this week.
Nice.
But he's eating ownership, 26% ownership.
Eckler.
If you think this game
How
goes,
about that ownership there? Are you seeing for Eckler that high ownership, like 30 to 40%? This is the early, as you said, this is early, but wow.
I don't know why everything is slow this morning. So I unclicked Seattle.
Let me tell you,
now it's not.
Everything is slow. It took a little extra time for the coffee to be made this morning. It took a little extra time just to get down here. I'll tell you that much.
Dude, 2 days in a row over the weekend. As a matter of fact, going into our Tuesday show, this happened. That's why it took me a little extra to get to my seat for the Tuesday show. Monday, I made coffee, and I got my coffee, and it should have been a large coffee, but there was only a small amount of coffee in it. I realized I didn't refill my water reserve. Tuesday, I did the exact same damn thing. So
Oh,
I'm only seeing Eckler projected about 15% ownership, and given his price is 8,300, I think that's going to be more accurate than your numbers. But it's up. Ownership's always up for debate. Um, I use Fantasy Labs and I use Establish the Run, and the ETR guys are great. I mean, they're really good at projecting ownership. And your sources, I think, are decent, but yeah, I mean, even Fantasy Labs
there.
has their ownership at around 10%.
Okay.
Establish the Run has it around 15. So, um, whereas Ken Walker's at 35% ownership and 25% ownership. So, he seems to be the go-to in this game. Eckler is in a great spot, an absolute smash spot. So, I mean, I think that's why your numbers are projecting so high
Sure.
with him, because this is a Seattle team that gives away um, equity at receiving running back and the running back position in general. Like, the Seattle Seahawks are a team you attack against the running back. So Eckler is just in a really good spot here, and I'm liking the Eckler play. If I'm building stacks, I'm probably not going to involve Eckler. I'm probably going to go Lockett, Metcalf, or even the tight end in that situation. I
Mhm.
might throw in some Gerald Everett, or I'm sorry, no, I'm not touching the tight ends for the Seahawks. Um, I'm all over the place tonight.
That's all right.
This morning,
Again, no, tonight it's your night. It's my morning. That's where
yeah,
we're sitting here. It makes
that is
sense.
true.
Yep. Um,
Yeah, just looking at breaking down the two late games, I like the San Francisco Kansas City game better. I see more, and coming into the show, I don't think I would have said that. I think I was really excited for the Geno stacks, but looking at ownership and pricing, I think there's just so much value in Kansas City and San Francisco, and there's so little ownership right now. It might get steamed as people start trying to build and realizing that the Seattle game is costly, and there's very high ownership. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's my thought on those two games. But again, for Seattle, I'm probably looking at Lockett, I'm looking at Metcalf, and I'm looking at the running back Walker. And then for the LA Chargers, I probably will play little Eckler in the stacks.
mhm.
But I'm going to want to play Eckler outside of the stacks more than within the stacks. I'm definitely going to be looking at Mike Williams. Keenan Allen I don't know if he's going to play or not. As of right now, I leaning towards probably him playing. But then again, they got the bye coming up next week, I believe. So it just makes more sense for him to sit. So given the fact that the bye is next week, I'm going to say he sits.
Okay.
So, and Palmer, Joshua Palmer, still in concussion protocol as of right now. Um, I think he is going to play 5 grand. He's probably a pretty good play, especially if Keenan Allen sits. But regardless, he's going to be the third wide receiver, um, one way or another. So Joshua Palmer, I'll be looking at. So I'm still iffy on who to play on the Chargers due to injury questions. Um, but yeah, I just don't feel good about it anyways. Gerald Everett, I think, would be a smart play just because you kind of know, um, Donald Parham is in the concussion protocol um, as well, I believe. Um, maybe I'm getting am I getting that confused? Because you have Joshua Palmer and then you have Parham. Um, both are listed as questionable, and one of them I know is in concussion protocol, and I believe it's the
It's
might be
Palmer.
both of them. It's
It
Palmer. Okay.
I know Palm. Yeah, I was looking Palmer up. Yeah, it's him.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't think Parham's going to play, which would open the door for Gerald Everett as a really good play. Um, and he's projecting well within the model. He's one of my highest projecting tight ends right now. So,
So
I
if there's no Keenan Allen, if there's no Palmer, and Everett's the play, one of the plays there, you said, What about, do you go down to DeAndre Carter at 3,700?
I think
There's not much listed there for the
I think
DraftKings.
it's I think it's too thin for me. I don't think there's a real ceiling there.
Right.
I don't see you hitting your value or getting your value back. I mean, Mike Williams has been struggling to get his value, um, which is probably going to keep his ownership down, because he's been so streaky. Uh, but I like the Mike Williams play there, especially if I'm playing stacks, especially if his ownership is going to remain as low as it's projecting right now, which is under 5%. But again, I think it's early in the week, and I think once people start building, they're going to want him as the run back. Um, although maybe the thought is everyone's just going to play Eckler as the run back against the Seattle stack. So because yeah, everyone's
Yep.
going to want to touch to that Geno play just because he's so cheap. But
Yep.
I'm telling you, man, Garoppolo and that San Francisco Kansas City game, that's juicy to me. And I don't know if I really want to play Garoppolo all that much. I definitely prefer Mahomes, but just for cost efficiency and higher ceiling builds, um, I think the spending down and getting Garoppolo at 5,500 is probably the play. He doesn't project as well as Geno Smith. They're virtually the same price on DraftKings.
Yep.
Geno Smith is 5,600. Jimmy Garoppolo is 5,500. Smith is projecting around 20 points. Garoppolo is projecting around 17. Um, both have their ceilings are all right. Smith has a much higher ceiling than Garoppolo, but if this game shoots out like that, I mean, if this game shoots out, they're both going to hit their ceiling. And yeah, I mean, it's just probably smarter to play the Geno side though, and then just try to get creative with what you do. Um, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just not. You're either doing what everyone else is doing and playing the Geno Smith stack, or you're taking a risk on Jimmy Garoppolo and hoping he performs at a level that somehow is better than Geno Smith, and it's just hard to see happening. That's why I just again I'm not loving this game at all, even though it's the highest over under in the slate. So
Fair. Yeah.
and then the third game that's getting the point totals is the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys, and everything's freezing again. My issue with this game is definitely a gamble. Like, this is a great tournament play. I don't think I want to take this kind of chance in cash for either of these side because look, right now the Dallas defense is legit. Like they're solid and
Mhm.
they're more than capable of slowing Detroit down. Now we've
Yeah.
seen Detroit has yeah.
With this game, with Detroit playing at Dallas, I mean, I can't help but think of this is the like the Thanksgiving championship. Like this will be the king of Thanksgiving. These are two traditional Thanksgiving teams. It's the
Right.
Thanksgiving Turkey Day. John Madden is excited wherever he is right now, you know?
Uh-oh. Was that the rest in peace horn? Um
Oh yeah, that's what I tried to play. It was taps, but it just no, I'm sorry. Go on.
the the
Horrible.
turkey,
My
the
bad.
Kurduncan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the turducken. Oh, him and his turkeys. Loved it. Anyway,
yeah. Like I'm thinking about making one for this game because you're right. I'm
there
definitely
you
going to
go.
get a can. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as making a turkey for this game, but I'm definitely going to get a can of cranberry sauce, and I'm just going to squeeze it out, and I'm going to eat some canned cranberry sauce in honor of this game. Because you're right, I
Maybe
didn't
like
think
a
of that, but
maybe like a turkey TV dinner in honor of or something. You
there
know,
you go.
whatever.
I'll do a hungry man.
Been a while. It's been a while. I'm in.
It has been a
All right.
while.
The Dak thing, Al. I was wondering. I always kind of wonder. Like, I made the thumbnail for YouTube and stuff, and I've got Dak and I've got Swift on there because, well, to be honest, their pictures were easy to pull out, so I put them up. The Dak thing intrigues me. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. He's looking at about 5 to 8% ownership. He has a super ceiling. He's around 30 points on a ceiling, projecting over 20 points. And he's 6,700, which isn't a far cry off of the other guys we're talking about, the Geno Smiths. He's $1,000 more than Geno Smith, but he just has a realistic ceiling. And I think people are going to be afraid to play him because remember the thought in a lot of the logical thought in most fantasy players' minds is let's give it a week and see how he plays, and then we can make judgments from there.
Right.
And the smart thing to do in tournament play is beat the market, and you beat the market by taking risk, and the risk here has a very high reward. I mean, there's a real floor. I mean, this could be a disaster. Dak could not be ready. They could be not clicking. But let's remember, the Detroit Lions do not have the defense. They don't have any defense. They're they got the paper out there, and you could tear right through them any way you want. So I mean, this is a sweet spot for Dak Prescott to show us and remind us why he's an elite quarterback. Over the last couple of years, I mean, the top five finisher in most fantasy seasons. So minus when he gets hurt, but yeah. So I mean, there's just a real ceiling here. I don't know if nobody is playing Gerald Everett, and I'm probably not going to play Gerald Everett. He's 5,800, which is right about the price of the Geno Smith, Jimmy Garoppolo guys, and those guys just obviously make so much more sense than Gerald Goff. But man, Gerald Goff has gotten there this year, and this is a dome game. Both are dome teams. Both of them, one has a real defense, the other one has no defense. So my concern is that Dallas just controls this game. They slow the offense of Detroit down, or they shut down the Detroit offense, and then they just hand the ball to their shitty running back, and let him run away with it. Zeke Elliott finally has a big game, and him and Tony Pollard, split the running equity, and nobody wins. That could absolutely happen. I know DeAndre Swift is still questionable. I imagine coming off the bye, he's going to play. The Sun God, Armand St. Brown, he's also still questionable. But again, coming off a bye, I think he's going to be ready to go. Although, he does have a lower leg injury, and those are he doesn't even have a questionable tag this week. So that's a great indication. Um, he's 7,100. I love the play. I love the guy. I love the Sun God. I believe in him. I believe in the Armand family, the St. Brown family, and this is just a good spot. So I'm probably going to have a lot of shares of Armand St. Brown. But again, Dallas is absolutely capable of shutting this offense down. So that does scare me a little bit. CD Lamb has been doing okay. He's been playing all right with Cooper Rush as his quarterback. I gotta think he's getting excited to get Dak back. He's only 6,800. He's projected for a 30-point ceiling and 20 points. Insane amount of ownership. He's the Tyler Lockett of the week. Um, he's projected at about 30% ownership right now. So everybody sees it. People know that he's the play, and he's absolutely going to be a great cash play. Um, but he might be a faded tournament. I mean, I think maybe you take the risk and you play the Lion side in a tournament, and you assume they beat the Dallas Cowboys defense, which it's unlikely, but that's how you win tournaments. And you actually play the Gerald Goff as the pivot off of Geno Smith, and you stack him with St. Brown, and maybe Hawkinson, and whoa baby, print the money. You're off to the races because the dollars are just gonna, Okada's gonna have the money falling from the ceiling, and you're gonna be a rich man. You won the Millie Maker with this. I don't know, but I'm
There we go.
definitely I'm definitely gonna try to play it from the Detroit side, um, aggressively, and I will play the Dallas side as well. I think the Dallas is just coming in a little bit too under owned. Um, But I mean, I feel like I'm just having a deja vu moment of this game happening like last year and it being like the obvious game to play, and nobody ended up playing it, and it
Right.
went off. So I guess see if that's true or not.
I like that feeling. I'm in. Whew.
They played last year.
You know, it's good to see that Dak is coming back with a warm up game before I head down there with our with the Chicago Bears. Yeah, getting that
Yeah,
warm up game in before he faces the mighty Bears. You know.
that's right. You guys had going down there in 2 weeks. You're going to see the Jerry's World. I've been there once. It's cool. I like how the sun shines in through like the little side windows. It's a cool experience. Hopefully, getting in isn't a disaster. I know sometimes they have problems with the tickets coming in, but I mean, I'm sure they figure that out. The Dallas Cowboys, and you know, it's their world. We just live in
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
We just visit it, really. TJ Hawkinson right now is projecting at 2% ownership. Um, you got to like that. I mean, the guy's got almost a 20-point ceiling. 4,800. He's not too expensive, and we've seen his ceiling. It's real. He could absolutely smash. Um, Unlikely again against the Dallas Cowboys, but if they were to do it, they're coming off a bye. They got fresh legs. They've been game planning all week for this. You know, TJ Hawkinson, of course, putting up 42 points against Seattle 2 weeks ago. Only put up 2 points in his last game, though. And that seems to be a trend. He either gets a lot or a little. So, but I think this is a game where he has potential. Man, if they just keep throwing the ball, this has a real chance to be a shootout. That's why there's a 49-point over under. And yeah, I'm going to want to be here. Again, I think I like this game more than the LA Chargers Seattle game. I'm just not liking that game. I might full fade it. I don't think I'll be that ballsy, but I just in large tournaments in the 150, or even like a 20 max. I think I'm just gonna fade the game. F it. I'm off it. Uh, Other games to look at, man, it starts getting really thin. Um, Cleveland, Baltimore, 45-point over and under. Atlanta, Cincinnati. It's just been so not fun playing Atlanta or Cincinnati this year. It just hasn't happened yet. Um, Green Bay, Washington, like the Packers should be able to tear up, the Washington Redskins. The Redskins are a capable team at pushing back. Of course, they have a different quarterback this week. We're going to what Tyler Heine is finally getting a look here, with Wentz out injured. Um, yeah, I mean Heineke. I don't think he's really that like a step up than Wentz. I mean Wentz has just been god awful though, so like this might be a blessing in disguise. And you know who the run back is? I mean it's Terry McLaurin, and he projects well. His price is decent. 5,800, 5,900. I'm sorry, with almost a 20-point ceiling, a little shy of a 20-point ceiling. Absolutely no ownership. Green Bay, Romeo Dobbs. Um, hasn't been getting as many good looks, but he's still the guy. And Alan Lazard has the relationship that you always look for in an Aaron Rodgers team. 6,100 on Lazard, 5 grand on Dubs. Um, both are good plays. Both have about 20-point ceilings. So this game could get you there. Um, Aaron Rodgers is only 6,000. The pricing this week on DraftKings is low. Like there's gonna be a lot of you're gonna be able to do what you want in a lot of games, which is why I think your source had Eckler's projection so high because he makes sense as the run back in the highest game, and you can afford him, and you can afford him in a lot of different scenarios, and he's a really good play. So, um, yeah, I mean these stacks are really cheap this week all over the place. Man, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, that game doesn't even have a 40-point over and under. I would love to get excited. Mike Williams, was underutilized last week, and there were some comments from the coaching staff basically saying, "Yeah, that's ridiculous. We need Mike Williams involved." So squeaky wheel gets the oil. Mike Evans is in a really good spot this week to really go off. I mean, the concern is, and the realistic outcome though is, Tampa Bay's favored by 13 points in an over and under of 39.5. So, unless Mike Evans feasts early, there just might not be a lot of equity through the air to really take advantage of that price point. So,
Well, there's just not much reason for the Carolina Panthers to even go out there. You know what I mean? Like for the team to have a win right now.
yeah,
Sure that
yeah,
the players may use that as bulletin board material, but
they've
man,
given up. I
it's
mean,
tough to bet on Tampa right now is my thing.
yeah,
Like the way things were blowing up last week, but they are getting their receivers back and healthy. That was I tried to say, but my mic was off on Green Bay. I just keep thinking that one of these weeks, the Aaron Rodgers thing is going to click with some of these young receivers there too. Like you just expect that to happen. It generally does, but he no longer has his number one. There's no Devontae out there. There's no Adams. Like
the rumors floating around right now is that they're looking to get Chase Claypool, and given the fact that I have Chase Claypool in my Scott Fishbowl team, I kind of hoping that he does go to the Packers and becomes their number one wide receiver, as opposed to the third wide receiver over there in Pittsburgh.
I can't believe I didn't pick up Foreman. Oh, that pisses me off.
Yeah, that was an easy snag. I love those snags where you don't have to play the waiver wire. They're just first come, first serve.
I had just taken my gummy. I was kind of wearing down. I went and looked at my phone a little bit after that trade went down. And I went and looked to see if I was playing against CMC at all, wondering if he'd get a boost being in San Francisco. And that's what I looked at. My brain wasn't even working. And I need a running back. Shit, I could have jumped on the sleeper before you were on there, knowing that you were at work, just snaking right in there. And I didn't do it. I want to know who it was. Was it Scott?
I would have been so pissed if you got him before me.
Oh, yeah.
You would have ruined my night, Clark. So I think it would have been a good move.
I would have been more than anyone. Like you weren't pissed. All right, fine. Fair enough. Ross probably got him too.
Yeah, I don't think I got him in the. I got him in one of the two. I think I got him in the Tiki.
That's such a fun thing. Everybody's having the same conversation right now. I was already asleep. All this stuff.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
And then I didn't start Eno Benjamin in Ross's league because the other running backs were projecting a little bit better.
Oh,
so
if Ingram, do you know Ingram had another touchdown called back? I was thinking about you all night, Al. Your guy Ingram. You have him on the bench too. I saw. Like you have both Benjamin. You have Benjamin, Connor, and Ingram.
Yeah.
You're holding on to all of them waiting, and Ingram had one called back. If he'd gotten that second one, you'd have been kicking yourself on that as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't have felt bad because there was no way to know that he was
right.
Now going forward, I think he realistically is going to be, man, that whole thing is going to turn into a mess once Connor comes back. Because I think you got three legitimate running backs, and I think Eno Benjamin is better than Connor at this point. So whether the coaching staff goes with that or not, I don't know. Players don't lose jobs to injuries. That's kind of just a tradition in the NFL. But
right.
Well, in this game, in this Tampa Bay Carolina game, I mean Leonard Skinnard. I was thinking of them because the plane crashed today, or my day, yesterday, your day.
Really?
But it was the anniversary of the plane crash.
Damn.
So
no clue.
Uncle Lenny Fournette, on the other hand, 7,700, pricey, but he's in an obvious smash spot against the Carolina Panthers with a 13 point, point spread. Like, he only has 22% ownership, which is high. I mean, it's probably because of his price point. I don't know if I'm going to want to go there too heavy, but I'm probably going to play him at least 20%. I'm probably going to be on the market, if not over. I might set him at like a 30% ceiling for my large field stuff. So yeah, I mean that's the obvious play in that game. Just play Lenny Fournette. Ignore everything else. It's not worth stacking. It's not worth really touching. The Giants Jags, like that just has a game that feels like a shootout. 43-point over under. Like I would probably bet the over on that game. And it's just one of those games. It feels like an old school Jacksonville Jaguar game when they were just terrible. And who was it? Blake Bortles is putting up, they're putting up 40 points in just a bad team shootout. And
Mhm.
I think that could happen. Like this is a game right now. I'm looking at playing Danny Dimes. So I actually am going to probably play this game. I might even talk myself into playing like 3% of Trevor Lawrence. Um, Danny Dimes is almost the stone minimum. He's 5,100, 23-point ceiling. Again, if this guy gets 20 points, which is very realistic, it's a 4-time multiplier. He is looking at about 8% ownership. So people are on this game. It's not like a secret here that this could be a juicy game. And like it's just like the players you just kind of know who to play. Uh, Travis Etienne, probably not a good play, but he's projecting now as the number one running back over James Robinson. So that switch has finally happened for you year-long guys who've been sitting on him. Like me, I have him in a league, and I've just been waiting for the day where he finally becomes the guy. And it looks like that's where we're at because he has explosiveness that James Robinson just doesn't. Saquon Barkley, obviously the steal of the draft, by many people's considerations. People were. I mean, who would have thought how stupid people were to be drafting Najee Harris over Saquon Barkley? But man, we did it. A lot of people did.
I'm kicking
Thankfully, I
myself
didn't.
with the number one spot, taking Jonathan Taylor and not taking Barkley right now. But I mean,
Yeah.
Taylor's back. We'll see. Ugh, it's frustrating.
So Barkley, I think stacking Danny Dimes with Barkley is realistic. Because Barkley, man, he feasts in the passing game. So that plays into a good correlation with Danny Dimes. And then you could maybe play a little Wendell Robinson, who I've held like all year in my season longs, and I finally like started dropping him, and now he's again projecting uh, to be probably the number one wide receiver of the New York Giants this week, and he's 4,500. So I mean, that's just a guy like he's a steal. When you're looking for cheap plays this week, just look at Wendell Robinson. I think he's totally worth, um, your punt wide receiver, your third wide receiver
Yep.
in any of your builds. I think Wendell's a good play. And then you run it back with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's only 5,900. The guy's got a 20-point ceiling. He's a good player. He has chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. So there's just a lot of like good plays in this game. The market right now is projecting to be on Zay Jones. I'm actually fading Zay Jones this week. I just don't like the matchup. Um, he's 4,400, so he's another punt play. So if you're looking for some cheap wide receivers in this week, if you need to save some money in your builds, this is the game to attack wide receivers. Wendell Robinson, Christian Kirk. Even though I'm not doing it, Zay Jones is a good play at the value. Um, Darius Slayton, no, I wouldn't touch that. I basically those are the three guys I would go with. Maybe Marvin Jones Jr., but he's questionable. Um, and then the tight end, both Bellinger, good young athlete. I needed a tight end this week in the Scott Fishbowl. My guys are on bye. I went ahead and picked him up, so I'm starting him in the Fishbowl this week. So I believe in him. Um, I think he's definitely stackable in Danny Dime stacks. He's only 3,400, and then Evan Ingram is 3,300. And revenge game. I believe revenge game for Ingram, who was a New York Giant at one
Oh yeah.
point. So,
There you go.
um, yeah, like he's projecting the highest ownership I think of any player in this on this game at almost 12% ownership. So, he might be the fade if you're seriously taking this game as a stack to win a tournament. You may want to pull away from Ingram and just going the other guys I mentioned. Um, which could get you there. I mean, Christian Kirk is your run back as opposed to Ingram. I think makes a lot of sense. Um, and you're saving half the ownership. So that's the pivot there. Um, Yeah, good game. A lot of ceiling in this game, and the team totals they're projecting, um, 20 points and 20 points for the Giants, 3 points for Jacksonville. I mean, that's basically 6 touchdowns projected in this game, and I'm thinking it goes to the over. Like I'm excited about this game, um, more so than I would have thought. So that's a game I'm definitely touching. Indianapolis, Tennessee. No, thank you. No, it's just horrible. Um, you could the Tennessee. I'm forgetting now. One of these teams is like just criminally bad against the pass. Uh, so it might be worth taking some pieces out of this game. But as far as a game stack, I'm not touching it. It's what do I got here?
Okay.
Yeah, Tennessee is just terrible against covering the pass. I think they're the worst in the league. So, Alec Pierce, again, we're talking savings at the wide receiver position for your builds. You got to punt somewhere. You got to save money. 4,600. Alex Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts is a good play. Michael Pittman is a good play. He's 7,400. He's expensive. And, there's just not a lot of points in this game to maybe justify spending to him, which is going to keep his loan ownership under 5%. So he's worth looking at in tournaments. I'm not going to have a lot of exposure on him. I'm probably capping it at probably, if I had more than 8% in all my lineups, I'd be sick. I'd literally probably vomit. And it's gonna be 70 degrees here in Chicago. I'm gonna be sweating my ass off in the attic with no air conditioning because it's supposed to be fall. And if I'm looking at my phone and I'm seeing, I have this great lineup and it's failing only because I played Michael Pittman, I'm gonna be absolutely sick. But I do think he is in play, regardless of what kind of sickness he's gonna cause you by making him play. Um,
Yeah.
and really that's all I'm touching in that game would be,
I
Pierce.
noticed you're kind of staying away from Baltimore at Cleveland, huh?
Well, I'm just kind of clicking around.
Yeah. No, just
Baltimore.
wondering there, like if Lamar is it's a good play again this week. He's 8 grand. Um, he's been getting it done. Jackson has. I see, and
Yeah,
again, my numbers here might be a little bit wrong, but I'm seeing 5 to 10% ownership there. Now that over under, is
that
only
sounds right.
45.5, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, the team total they're projecting Baltimore's projecting for 26 points and Cleveland's projecting for 19 points. I'm going to take the over on this as well. Like I think this game goes over, and I really do like Lamar Jackson. He's one of my favorite quarterback plays this week. So yeah, you're absolutely right in pulling this game up. Um, Looking at the running backs for this game.
weather looks great. Weather's great all around the main slate, by the way.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue anywhere. Um, yeah, it's such a smash spot for Nick Chubb that it's like such a sweet spot for Chubb. The Baltimore Ravens have been really bad against the run that I think Kareem Hunt is in play because I think they're just going to run, and they're going to try to limit exposure to Lamar Jackson through the ground. My problem with this game is I don't like any of the wide receivers on either side. Amari Cooper is probably who I'd do as my run back. You might as well just go with the guy with the highest ceiling. He's under 5% ownership, so you might as well just take the best piece, which is Amari Cooper. And we know our Amari Cooper has a real ceiling. We've seen it. Um, it's just the deal is with this Cleveland offense in fantasy is when they want to run the ball. That's what they want to do. All they want to do is hand the ball off. And when they can do that, Amari Cooper puts up, 8 points. When they're forced to pass, his target share is so high and we know he's a good player, he delivers. So you do get the ceiling with Amari Cooper if this game somehow turns into a game where the Cleveland Browns are going to have to pass,
Hmm.
which is more than likely, given the fact Baltimore should dominate this game. I don't really like any of the Baltimore wide receivers. I mean, common trend. I think you could say that every week. Duvernay is 4,500. Doesn't have a great ceiling, but he's another one of these cheap wide receivers who I'm probably going to look at outside of this game. He's on that list of good value players because he does get the opportunity and, he can deliver. I just don't like it. I mean, the obvious play is, obviously, is Mark Andrews and, 30-point ceiling. He's in a great spot. Um, I
There's
love
been a
it.
little bit of question there. 2 days in a row of not practicing. We'll see today. The
Yeah.
coach keeps saying that it's just rest day, but there is a bit of concern, enough to have me in my year-long leagues taking a look around.
Yeah.
The collective, Al, our collective there might in the my FFPC, right? That might
Yeah.
we might need to play Mo Alley this week.
This might be a Mo Alley Cox week. I dig it.
There
Underrated.
you
Dude's
go.
a stud tight end for the Indianapolis Colts. But yeah, Njoku has been playing really well this year. He's another great run back. I would probably look to run back Cooper and Njoku. I'd mix those guys up. I'm definitely playing both out, and I'm probably looking at David Njoku as a play outside of this game. I like him as a piece. Mark Andrews, the same thing. If he clears that question tag, if he's good to go, and he comes out
I
Friday
think he
without any
is.
designation, then like I want a lot of exposure on him this week, and he's affordable. I mentioned Nick Chubb. And the concern obviously is they move away from the run game, and they move more into the passing game, which would bode well for Kareem Hunt as more of the passing guy. But yeah, Nick Chubb. I mean, he's a guy who's going to be he's in a good spot this week. He's 8 grand. He's a hard guy to project because he's not involved in the passing game. He's not
Mhm.
a guy you tend to like to play in fantasy football, but he's kind of this year's Derrick Henry. So the dude Chubb needs to eat and get chubbier, and this could be a place for that.
Okay. I like it.
Baltimore, Cincinnati. I don't know. I'm sorry, Cincinnati, Atlanta. Like I just every week I want to be on Joe Burrow, and every week I try to be, and I am, and I fail. And this game is projected for a slow pace. They're both gonna there's gonna be a lot of running. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, by the way, great play this week. Probably the best running back play is 7 grand.
Okay.
That's really
90
all I want out of
seconds.
this game.
Yep.
I want Joe Mixon and nothing else. Um,
Sorry,
yeah,
that's gonna
so
be there.
so we've hit about the hour point. So I think we've covered most of
Yeah.
the games
Well,
that are relevant.
I wanted to make sure that we at least gave it your do you have a punt of the week? Would you have one that you would select over another,
60
or
seconds.
maybe a stack of the week? Which is your absolute favorite of each?
All right, my stack of the week is I'm gonna go with Dallas
Okay.
with an Amari St. Brown run back. Um, I just like the spot for Amari Cooper to show off what he's capable of. Um, I'm a little concerned with CC Lamb's ownership. That's the only thing that makes me concerned with that game stack. But I'll find a way to make it work. Um, so I think that's going to be my favorite build. If not that, it's going to be Kansas City, San Francisco. I'm definitely sticking in the higher over under games this week. I'm not going to go too deep in the woods. As deep
Okay.
as I'm going to go is probably going to be that Jacksonville, New York Giants. game. So
Okay.
those are the three stacks I really like. If you want to try to get value and try to get creative, then it's a Danny Dimes stack. If you want to be conservative, it's probably a Patrick Mahomes or Jimmy Garoppolo. I would go Mahomes. It'd be a Patrick Mahomes stack. And if you just want to kind of bet on a game going off, it's in a dome. It's the return of Dak Prescott. I think they're going to want to show him off a little bit. And the question obviously is, can the Detroit Lions challenge the Dallas Cowboys defense enough to make this game a shootout? And if it does, I think you'll win a lot of money. So that's my official punt is going to be the Dallas Cowboys stack. As far as like players, uh,
I like that the Cowboys stack is a punt of the week. I do like that. That's
yeah.
good.
I mean, a punt. The problem is we use that term punt of the week, and punt is usually the play you don't want to. It's
Right.
it's the shitty play, So,
Yeah.
but it works. It's fine. We
Fair.
know what we're talking about.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
you know,
let me just filter
yeah,
it down
no,
to just my players here.
that's all right.
Oh my god, I reset this damn computer. I don't know if like it might be time for a new laptop. It's been a couple of years. I need a big win. Every time I get a nice win, I like to buy a new laptop, and it hasn't been since 2020, so I'm due.
That's
All my big wins have come on the same week. It's the first Sunday of November, so we're almost there. So that's going to be a very exciting show once we get there,
I
because
can't wait.
that is that's my winning week. And of course, last year I was suspended by Draft Kings during that week, so I couldn't even play it.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
who knows what could have been? It could be like this could be my going on 3 years in a row of a big win on the first Sunday of November, but we'll see. Um, let's see here. I'm just gonna try to find a cheap guy I like. There was a guy we talked about. I just can't remember who it was. See if it jogs my memory here. I like Terry McLaurin. That's not the cheap though. That's not. Ah, yeah, it's probably Alex Pierce
Yep.
of the Indianapolis Colts. The guy's been getting the targets. He's getting the opportunity. He's going up against just a horrific um, secondary, and I think he's just in a position to smash. He's not going to see a ton of ownership, and he's just a good value. Um, the quarterback's going to be obviously a question, but 7 targets last week, 9 targets the week prior, 6 targets before that, and 5 targets. So, you know, 2 weeks ago, he took 9 targets. He caught 8 of them for 81 yards. It's 20 more yards. All of a sudden, he's got a 100-point bonus. You throw a touchdown in there. I think this week he puts it together. Last week he had 7 targets. He only caught 3 of them, but he went for 49 yards and a touchdown. So I think this is the week he breaks 100 yards and gets a touchdown.
Okay.
So Alec Pierce is going to be the steal to get this week. He's
The
going to be your
steal of
cheap
the week.
play.
Maybe
He's
I'll
the
change
steal of
the.
the week.
There you go. I'll change the graphic. So just
Yeah. And then as far as spending up, I do like Joe Mixon as a good running back play. I'm curious about Christian McCaffrey, um, but I don't know if curiosity is going to kill the cat. But I definitely going to want to be there. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I'm not in love with any of the top of the field. A lot of the ceiling plays. Jamar Chase against Atlanta, but like I don't love it. I'm not all that excited. Um, we'll wrap up. Let me just look at ceilings and then we'll wrap up here. Jamar Chase, CD Lamb, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, Debo Samuel, Armand St. Brown. These are the guys with the highest ceilings. The best value in there by a long shot is CD Lamb.
Okay.
Uh, And then the other guy would be T. Higgins. They're both under $7,000 with very high projections. Ownership on CD Lamb, like I said, it's just insane. It's about 30%. T. Higgins gets you about 15. Everybody else I mentioned is under 10% ownership because they're just the high end guys. People are going to want to play them in stacks. And again, none of them are really that sexy. Jamar Chase is in an absolute beautiful spot. The question is how much does the Atlanta Falcons push back? But of all those guys, I do think Jamar Chase is probably the top play for tournament and ceiling. CD Lamb is the best play for cash by a mile, just because of the value and the savings and the similar ceiling. Um, Eckler has the highest ceiling is at the running back position this week, 8,300, decent. The second highest ceiling is a guy nobody wanted to touch in the drafts this year, but he's been dominating at his job, and that's Josh Jacobs. He's 6,500. He's at almost 40% projected ownership. Like he's gonna be an absolute fade for me in tournaments. I think I'm gonna do a full fade on him, which it's I've been bitten a couple times this year, fading running backs. Running back is the one position where you should eat the chalk. Like if you feel Josh Jacobs could get you there and you want to spend your chalk, well then by all means play Josh Jacobs. But if these projections hold true and we don't get like a late injury that suddenly shifts the market away from him, 40% on a guy, yes, it's the Houston Texans, but man, that's just putting so many eggs in the basket. It's just like it's not worth. I'd rather lose the tournament play, and not play Josh Jacobs than play Josh Jacobs and get my money back, because that's really the difference. Like you could play Josh Jacobs and probably break even on a week,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think you're going to win a tournament with Josh Jacobs in that ownership, because you just have to beat everybody else playing him 40% of the field. Um, and it's impossible. I mean, the dude had 28 attempts 3 weeks ago. The last 2 weeks, he's gotten 21 attempts. He's broken 150 yards in basically all 3 weeks. He's averaged over 150 in those 3 weeks. 144, 154, 154. He's had a touchdown in every game over the last 3 weeks. Like his last 3 weeks points, his last 3 week drafting points, 37, 33, and 33. Like, man, it's hard to argue against Josh Jacobs right now. JJ is on fire. He's better than the other JJ right now. He's better than the Justin Jefferson. He's the new JJ. Um,
Okay.
he's the black sheep of the fantasy. Nobody wanted him, but here he is. 3 weeks in a row, consistently putting up 30 balls. Um, but again, that ownership is just too high. And man, I don't know. What do you think, Clark?
I don't know. I I'm right there with you. Absolutely. I
Yeah,
think I've learned a lot on this episode. Thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
I'm coming off the full fade though. Like I think maybe I'll just try to limit it to about 20% ownership, so I'm at least getting in on him if he feasts, but I'm getting away from him if he doesn't. Quarterback highest projected ownership is Geno Smith. Like I said, I think that's a fade. I don't like that game. I've made my cases tonight why I'm getting away from that. And right now, Cade Otton is projected at 16% ownership. He's 2,700. That's why. Uh, but it's always smart to fade those chalky punt plays at tight end, and just try to do it another way. Hayden Hurst, 3,500, 10% ownership. Um, yeah, there's not a lot of tight end plays this week though. So it's either spend up to like Mark Andrews, pending the questionable tag, Kelsey at $8,000, or punting. I think I'm okay with actually eating the ownership on Cade Otton. There's just not a lot of options, but I'm going to try to probably spread it around amongst Evan Ingram, Hayden Hurst, Kyle Pitts. I'm probably going to lose money on like everyone, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Defense, you're on your own.
All right. Well, that's another great show, partner. That's
Clark,
another fantastic show. Every Friday, listen to this. What's that?
I'm going to have sweet dreams, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
I'm going to give it a shot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab the download of this and use it on my commute. I'm back to the bike, Al. My sister, was out of town on business, so I had her vehicle for those cold mornings. I don't know if you knew, but the mornings, man, we're in the low 30s around here for a couple days. Not great for the biking weather, but I did have the car, which takes me about 25 minutes longer to get to work in the car, but it was a warm ride. That's what it was. So,
well, I recommend getting maybe an electric hat and an electric vest.
I was thinking about electric gloves, or they sell these things that go like over your bike handle as well, that are like mittens for the whole thing for your hand and the bike handlebars.
Okay,
so we'll see that.
I like that idea.
The gloves without the fingers on them, they don't cut it when it gets this cold, Al.
No, not at all.
All right. We do this every Friday. It's the Sports Addict Daily Fantasy Podcast. Get all of your info here. Grab the podcast. Take us with you on the commute. You listen on the way in, on the way home, whatever you want to do. And it'll get you all set up for the Sunday main slate. That's what we do here, Al. Thanks again, partner.
All right, bud.
All right. Y'all have a great night. Thank you much.
Win some money.
Yep. There you go. We are